Here's some next level stuff if you're creating social media content or you eventually want to create content. There are lots of basics everyone needs to learn. The basics are readily available in plenty of tutorials. What I'm about to tell you isn't readily available, but if you learn it, you'll be able to give your content a massive advantage over other content. And that's a huge part of being effective on social media. People are constantly being offered tons of options. They have a limited amount of time. Why should they spend their time watching or listening to or reading your content? Here you want to give your content every possible advantage when it comes to getting people's attention and holding people's attention. By the way, this is also relevant for speaking, preaching, conversations, writing, anywhere you need to get people's attention and hold people's attention and help them remember your points. I said a little while back that we'd be looking at a specific video as an example. In a few moments, you'll understand why it's better to look at a specific example instead of keeping things general and abstract. So, who killed Muhammad? I posted the original about a decade ago. The original has 1.6 million views, and it didn't just go viral and get 1.6 million views overnight. It never went viral. It just always kept getting views. YouTubers call this evergreen content as opposed to viral content. Evergreen content keeps doing well year-round. I recently made a new version of the same video. I suspect that the same thing will happen. I suspect that people will keep watching the video and that over a period of several years it will continue performing well. Now, I've made somewhere around 1,500 videos over the years. Why is Who Killed Muhammad one of the videos that got well over 1 million views? I thought I understood years ago why that video did well, but I was only partly right. So now I'm going to share what my formula was back then, why I thought I had a good recipe for a video back then, and then I'll share what I know now, but I didn't know back then. And what I know now is going to be very, very useful in a lot of future videos. So years ago, here's why I thought this video did well. There was information in the Muslim sources that almost no one knew about and which wasn't available in any popular form at the time. In other words, a few of us who were studying Islam knew about Muhammad being poisoned and saying that he could feel his aorta being severed, and about the Quran saying that Allah would sever his aorta if he fabricated revelations, but it hadn't been put together in a form that gave everyone else access to this information. So when I put it all together into a video, I knew that a lot of people would find it interesting and that my video would be the main source for this information. If you liked this argument against Islam, my video was the best place to get it. And this was the formula for several of my big videos over the years. When I made Muhammad, the white prophet with black slaves, I knew that I was putting together the go-to video on that topic and that my video would be the main source for people who wanted to use that material. It's a supply and demand sort of thing. If you make a video and you've got the only supply, then people who are interested in that topic have to come to you. So that was the formula. It's still correct, but it's not the whole story. I've made other videos where I took what's in the Muslim sources and put the information into an easy to understand format, and sometimes they don't do nearly as well. But now I have a better idea of why Who Killed Muhammad kept getting views. When it comes to ideas, there's a concept called stickiness. This is just a term that some of the people who study this field use. An idea is sticky when people tend to remember it and share it. Why do certain ideas stick when others don't? Sadly, truth isn't the main factor in why certain ideas stick. Some of the stickiest ideas out there are completely false. There's an entire category of sticky ideas called urban legends. We just passed Halloween. There are still parents who take their kids' candy to have it x-rayed at the hospital because they've heard that there are creepy people who put razor blades into candy. Fun fact, there's no record of this ever happening. It's a myth. If you're driving down this street at night and you see a car with the lights off, don't flash your lights at the car because it's actually a gang initiation. They'll kill you if you flash your lights. No record of this ever happening. A man walks into a bar and a beautiful woman starts talking to him and asks him back to her hotel room where he passes out. It turns out he's been drugged. He wakes up in a tub of ice only to find out that one of his kidneys has been removed. No record of this ever happening to anyone. Urban legends spread so quickly that no one has a chance to correct them. Fortunately, there are people who study why they spread so rapidly. And the people who study why ideas spread rapidly have pointed out 6 common features of sticky ideas. Not all sticky ideas have all of the features, but sticky ideas are pretty much always going to have some of the features. So let me give you an outline of the 6 features, and then we'll see what this has to do with the success of a YouTube video. Feature 1, simplicity. The core idea, the main takeaway, needs to be clear and simple. There may be a lot of other things going on in your message, but the core needs to be simple rather than difficult and convoluted. Be careful because creepy people are putting razor blades into Snickers bars. False, but it is simple. Feature 2, unexpectedness. Unexpected plot twists get people's attention. When you surprise people by going against what they're expecting, you get their attention. What do when you see someone driving at night without their lights on? You flash your lights. But guess what? They're going to kill you if you do that. False, but unexpected. Feature 3, concreteness. Things you can examine with your senses, or at least imagine yourself examining with your senses, are concrete. The further you get from things you can examine with your senses, the more abstract things are. And abstractions are not sticky. Razor blades in a Snickers bar, headlights flashing, waking up in a tub of ice with your kidney removed. Never happened, but these urban legends are filled with concrete details. Feature 4, credibility. There are all kinds of ways to make an idea more credible. You can give sources or statistics or expert testimony. Urban legends will often include made-up details to make the stories more credible. They'll say, the FBI recently put out this warning about a new gang initiation. Or they'll say, he walked into the Euphoria nightclub in San Francisco. The people who put these details into the urban legends know that they add credibility to the legend and that the vast majority of people are never going to do the slightest bit of research to see whether the legends are true. Feature 5, emotion. Kids swallowing razor blades. Gang members murdering you on the street in the middle of the night. Waking up and realizing that one of your organs has been removed. These are terrifying scenarios. And the more an emotion is stirred up, the more people will remember what stirred up the emotion. Feature 6, story. Concrete details allow people to picture things in their heads, but a story ties everything together and allows people to participate mentally, almost like they're watching a movie in their heads. Notice that urban legends are always stories. So, these are the 6 common features of sticky ideas. What you're ultimately looking for is a simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional story. I used urban legends as my example, but think about something very different. Think about the parables of Jesus. Think about the parable of the Good Samaritan, where a Jewish man is robbed and beaten almost to death. He's ignored by some very pious Jews, but he's rescued by a Samaritan. The core message is simple. Love your neighbor, even if he's from a different group. It's unexpected. Jesus' Jewish listeners would not have expected a Samaritan to be the hero of the story and to be a better person than the priest and the Levite. It's filled with concrete details. The setting is the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. That's a bit abstract to us, but Jesus' listeners would have actually pictured the road in their heads. They knew the road. A man gets beaten by robbers. A priest and a Levite walk by on the opposite side of the road. The Samaritan binds up his wounds, pours on oil and wine, sets him on his own animal, takes him to an inn, gives the innkeeper 2 coins. Very concrete. Credible. Now this one is brilliant. There are no statistics to cite here or a scientist to call on to verify the point, but one of the ways to establish instant credibility is to appeal to something that your listeners will agree is true. And what does Jesus do after he tells the parable? He says, which of the 3 men was a neighbor to the man who was robbed? They say, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus says, go and do likewise. In other words, you already know that what I'm saying is true. You agree, so do it. Emotional. This would have been very emotional for Jesus' listeners. A man gets robbed and beaten. Our respected religious leaders walk right by, leaving him on the ground. Someone that we despise, someone that we hate, showed compassion and helped the man, expecting nothing in return. Everything in the parable is emotionally charged. And of course, it's a story. Jesus kept telling stories, and his stories spread rapidly. I find this very interesting. There are experts who specialize in figuring out why certain ideas spread rapidly, and you see Jesus using these same features. Now, if Jesus used these features to help people understand and share his points, it might be a good idea for us to do likewise. So, back to who killed Muhammad. Now that we've gone through the main features of sticky ideas, why has this video continued to do well for over a decade? The original is 24 minutes long and the new version is 36 minutes long, so there's a lot of information there. But the core idea is very, very simple. Allah said that he would sever Muhammad's aorta if he were to fabricate revelations. Muhammad admitted that he fabricated revelations, and Muhammad died claiming that he could feel his aorta being severed. The core is simple. Unexpected. The vast majority of people in the world, and especially the vast majority of Muslims, have no clue that Muhammad was poisoned. So, when they see even just the title, Who Killed Muhammad? Wait a minute, Muhammad was killed? It's surprising, it's unexpected. And the rest of the video is unexpected as well, because Muslims are not expecting all of this stuff to be in their sources. Concrete. A woman slips some poison into a roasted lamb, almost like someone slipping some poison or a razor blade into a child's candy. Muhammad takes a bite. His companion takes a bite. His companion's face turns green. People can see the effects of the poison on the roof of Muhammad's mouth. Muhammad gets so sick that his followers have to prop him up between them, and they're walking him around with his feet dragging on the ground behind him. We can picture all of this in our minds. Credible. Notice how many sources I put on the screen during the video. Multiple translations of the relevant Quran passage, along with a popular commentary, tons of passages from Islam's most trusted sources. And in the new version, I respond to all of the most common objections to the original version. Highly credible. Emotional. A woman gets revenge on Muhammad for brutally murdering her family. And of course, the entire video is one big story. Why did this video do well? Partly because it contains some awesome new information for people, but also because when we lay out the criteria of a sticky idea, this video scores pretty high on all of the criteria. So what's my point here? Well, if we know which kinds of features help make our ideas stick better, we can deliberately make our ideas as sticky as possible. Not all ideas or points will work well with some of the features we discussed, but you should be able to incorporate some of the features when you're making your case. Additionally, if you know the relevant features, you can spot ideas that are naturally sticky. The story about Muhammad being poisoned is naturally sticky. It already has a number of the most important features. So, when you're searching for video topics, you can give special attention to topics that are naturally sticky. Now, I spent a lot of last year studying this, but I have not started deliberately using these criteria to make my content as sticky as possible. What I've done is look back on my earlier work, and now I can see why certain videos massively outperformed other videos. And now when I watch someone else's video, I can see why it does well or doesn't do well. And so I'm about to start incorporating all of this when I make my content. We'll see what sort of impact it has. If you'd like to read a book on this, most of what I've said here comes from the book Made to Stick: Why Some Ideas Survive and Others Die by Chip and Dan Heath. If enough of you are interested, I'd be happy to make some tutorials going into much more detail on the various features that make ideas stick. What would be ideal is all of the content creators in our group understanding these main features and having a checklist that we go through when we're preparing content. In other words, let's say you put together a script for a video. You include all of the information you want in the video, but you want to give your video an advantage. So you go to your checklist and use it to modify your script. You ask yourself, how can I make my core idea simpler and clearer? Is there something unexpected or surprising in all of this that I need to emphasize more? Are there any concrete details I can add to make sure people are visualizing this? And so on. Just imagine a community of Christian apologists who figure out how to make their ideas as sticky as possible. Seems like a game changer to me. Let me know what you think.